Hello, ladies. Okay, today we are going to talk about why fasting is not an option for a woman in peri or post-menopause. Most of the information that you're hearing about fasting is related to studies done on men. And we need to look at studies done on women in peri and post-menopause because we're different and things hit differently when we're in this phase of life. Fasting being one, keto being another as well. These two strategies for weight loss, if you will, or health goals or health, living a long, healthy life are not appropriate for a woman in peri or post-menopause. Today, I'm going to speak specifically to fasting and what the research showed when fasting was incorporated for women in peri and post-menopause. First, I want to differentiate between time-restricted eating and fasting. Time-restricted eating talks about following the circadian cycle, meaning not eating 2 hours before bed, going to bed, sleeping, and then waking up within an hour in the morning. So you technically have a fasted period in there, but it is not a fasting protocol. This is following the circadian cycle, which is what helps us as women in peri and postmenopause to reduce the impact of the hormonal fluctuations that we have. We don't want to eat 2 hours before bed because when we eat really close to bed, it impacts our melatonin production, right? Sleep is already such a precious commodity to a peri and postmenopausal woman. Why are we going to do anything to make sleep even more of an issue? And this would be, eating close to bed, slows down digestion, just can cause a bunch of issues. So that's why we try to eat at least 2 hours before bed, go to bed, wake up in the morning, and then eat within an hour of waking to, again, stimulate muscle protein synthesis, get those amino acids floating in the system to reduce impact of hormonal fluctuations that come from a woman in peri and postmenopause. So when it came to fasting and the studies on fasting, here is what we found in women versus men when we looked at the research. First up, we see that it had no effect on insulin sensitivity in a woman in peri and postmenopause. As you can see here, it almost had, or in some cases, had an adverse effect, meaning it actually reduced insulin sensitivity for a woman in peri and postmenopause. In men, it increases insulin sensitivity. The second thing that we see is that it increased HDL, which is the good cholesterol, but it had zero impact on lowering the LDL, the bad cholesterol, which is the opposite of what it does for a man. It had minimal to zero effect of autophagy, which is the big thing that you hear pushed when it comes to fasting is we're looking for the autophagy benefits, which just means the body is kind of eating up the bad proteins. You can get this same benefit from the time-restricted eating. Exercise provides the same benefit. Reduced calorie intake provides the same benefit. You don't have to fast to get the autophagy benefits. Next, it increased oxidative stress, right? As a woman in peri and postmenopause, we have a lot of stress on our system anyways because cortisol levels are being elevated due to the decline of estrogen buffering it. Insulin sensitivity is going down. Sleep is disrupted, which causes issues with hormones as well. We just have a whole lot of stuff going on. And here we see that it actually increased oxidative stress, meaning it created more inflammation in the body when we already have enough inflammation in the body. So it is not a great thing to incorporate into a peri and post-menopause woman's regimen. Next, it disrupted our sleep architecture. Again, as I was saying, sleep is a precious commodity to a peri and postmenopausal woman. We don't want to do anything that is going to increase our chances of having even crappier sleep. And fasting was shown to disrupt sleep due to hunger, due to not feeling great, low energy, like all of the components that come typically from doing fasting regimens. Last, but not least, and probably one of the more important ones or one of the more impactful things that we saw fasting did was it actually enhanced the sympathetic nervous system, that fight or flight system, which we are naturally staying in more as a peri and postmenopause woman because of the hormonal changes, the fluctuations, you know, the brain changeover that we're having, the neurochemical changes, like all of that kind of stuff is driving us already into more of a sympathetic state, which is why we have increased anxiety, depression, the mood swings, the irritability. And we saw that fasting actually increased this drive into that sympathetic state again. If you're unsure, again, of how much you should be eating, when you should be eating, how much protein, how much carbs, this is my free calorie guide. It was specifically created for the peri and postmenopausal woman, a woman over the age of 35. It gives you all kinds of information to help you figure out what you should be eating, how much, when you should be eating it, how to time it around your exercise, what's important pre-workout, what's important post-workout, which is a huge factor for a peri and postmenopausal woman. And one of the easiest ways to make composition changes is that nutrient timing around exercising. So you can find all of that in this calorie guide. It's free. It's a great resource. It's very helpful, chock full of information that can be game changers for you and help you start feeling better. Thanks for being here today. I appreciate it, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.